As we celebrate Dr. King's 89th birthday tomorrow, I want to remind the nation that strategically sanitized history of the civil rights movement that is too often promoted at this time of year is not only reductive of Dr. King's message, but also the era in which he lived, a time where the rights considered to be linchpins of the American experience were won only through the shedding of blood and under the constant threat of death. Earlier, I spoke with Congressman John Lewis, who was barely 25 years old when he joined Dr. King to march from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama, pressing for voting rights and suffering a fractured skull at the hand of Alabama state troopers. Congressman Lewis, you worked with Dr. Martin Luther King as we approach the King holiday tomorrow, and it kicks off a year of recognizing and dealing with the 50th year since his death. How do you assess the state of Dr. King's dream today?
Well, and we've come a distance. We made a lot of progress, but I tell you, his dream has been shaken by so much that is happening in America at this time. When people around the world are trying out for freedom and independence, for justice, for health care, for peace in America, we're almost standing still, and sometimes I feel like we're taking steps backward. Dr. King would not be pleased with the state of affairs in America today.
Do you, as you look at the global picture, Dr. King in his last years came out against the war in Vietnam, dealt with world peace issues, was a Nobel Prize laureate, and we see this present administration dealing with a lot of back and forth globally and then domestically. One of the things that Dr. King taught was having a moral movement and a moral center to all that he did. And we're seeing more division and bickering and outright racism displayed at high levels, yet you keep going forward. You were the youngest member of what was called the Big Six, the top organization heads at the time. What keeps you going, and what would you want young people that don't even remember Dr. King, much of which weren't even born there, to understand about the King principles that they ought to be dealing with today in terms of the holiday, in terms of not really taking a day off, but a day on, but to do what?
I would like to think that all young Americans and young people around the world, and those not so young, would listen to the message of Dr. King, listen to the tapes, watch the films. Dr. King was a man of action. He believed in a way of peace, the way of love, the philosophy and the discipline of nonviolence. I was in the Riverside Church with him on April 4th, 1967, when he delivered that unbelievable speech against the war in Vietnam. He taught us the way of peace, the way of love. He taught us the philosophy and the discipline of nonviolence. He taught us never to hate, but to respect the dignity and the worth of every human being. So he taught me to be hopeful and not to get down, to keep picking them up and putting them down, that somehow, in some way, we could redeem the soul of America and create the beloved community, a nation at peace with itself.
Yet as we approach this, we saw this week the present president of the United States referring to certain nations of color, specifically Haiti, an African nation, and Salvador, as pots, or in very derogatory terms. Yet this kind of bickering, you even did not attend the opening of the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum, where you were displayed because you had differences with the tone of this administration. How do you assess Donald Trump in a Kingian kind of analysis as one that walks shoulder to shoulder with Dr. King?
I don't believe this man really understand what Martin Luther King Jr. was all about. Dr. King saw all of us, all Americans, as being citizens of the world. And he believed that we shouldn't put anyone down. I'm reminded of what Pope Francis said when he came to speak to a joint session of the Congress, that we all are immigrants. We all come from some other place. And here in America, we all are immigrants, except Native American. The late A. Philip Randolph said over and over again in the presence of Dr. King, when we were planning the march on Washington, that maybe our foremothers and our forefathers all came here in different ships, but we all are in the same boat now. And Dr. King put it another way. We must learn to live together. If not, we will perish as fools.
Dr. King worked with the farm workers, with Cesar Chavez and others. So clearly his policies around, his principles around policies on immigration would certainly not be anti-anyone. And certainly he demonstrated, even when he was being criticized, reaching out beyond just the African-American community. So in many ways, have you challenged as a congressman your colleagues to have a fair and humane immigration policy, not a race-based policy?
Well, I've been saying all along, and I will continue to say that we're all brothers and sisters, and it doesn't matter whether we're black or white, Latino, or Asian American, or Native American. You know, our doors are open. You know, we all are immigrants. And we should forget about race and see people as human beings.
On your body, you bear the scars of the struggle. You were beaten on the Edmund Pettus Bridge with Hosea Williams and others that just sought to raise the issue of voting rights. And you have now lived to see some of those rights in question. We're seeing what's going on in North Carolina. We're seeing what's going on in Texas and Ohio. How do you look at the achievements you and Dr. King and others made with getting the Voting Rights Act, but now that voting right is being seriously jeopardized in some states around the country, with it seems to be the support of the President of the United States?
We must continue to do what we did during the late 50s and during the 60s, during Dr. King's lifetime. When we see something that is not right, not fair, not just, we have to speak up and speak out. We must have the courage to resist.
Well, as one that grew up in the northern part of the movement and always admired you, it's a great honor that you would share with us your thoughts as we approach the eve of the King Day 18 and the year Dr. King was taken from us. You still on the firing line. You're still on the case, Congressman Lewis.
Well, thank you very much, Brother Al.
Up next, my final thoughts. Stay with us.